Kaz, teach me some Japanese. I want to learn Japanese.
おはようございます。
Okay, what is that?
That's good morning. おはようございます。
Ohayo gozaimasu.
Yeah. 元気ですか?
Genki desu ka?
That is how are you?
How are you?
こんにちは。
Konnichiwa.
こんにちは is hello.
Konnichiwa is hello. One word is like hi. Hi. Hi means I understand, right? Hello or I understand.
Hi, yeah, hi means yes, I understand.
So I think I want to
I
learn
agree,
that word,
agree.
hi. So whenever I say something, hi. Hi. It's always about people and their dreams. Welcome to Startup Saga. This is your host, Sanjay Agarwal. Today, again, we'll cross border. We'll go as far as east of Asia. When we think about this country, what comes to our mind is traditions and customs, technology and innovations, and food, great food. I think you all can guess. Yes, we're talking about Japan. Japan history goes as far as 30,000 BC. And they have a population of 125 million. But guess what? They're the fourth largest economy, $4 trillion plus economy. I was not sure, but they have 14,000 islands. It looks small, but they have 14,000 islands. 5 of them are big one, including Tokyo. Also called as Ring of Fire. You know why? Because it's surrounded by volcanoes. Japan is also surrounded by seas and oceans. Today, we have a very special guest from Japan. We worked together in GE Healthcare Asia Services. He was the GE Healthcare Asia Services pricing leader, and I was supporting him as the commercial finance leader for Asia. It was like a family. We had teams from all over Asia, China, India, Japan, Korea, and Asia Pacific, Australia, New Zealand. We used to speak once in a week, and those calls were amazing, and we had some great time during those calls. So it's like a memory down the lane. It's 20 years now, and it was such a great feeling to get back in touch with Kaz. Kaz was born in Japan. He started his early education in Japan, but he got an opportunity to come out of Japan and go and study abroad. So he did his pre-university from Canada, and then he applied for London School of Economics. He got in there, and he studied the Bachelor's of Science and Arts from London School of Economics. This experience of Canada and London opened up new world for Kaz. Kaz had a choice to stay back, but he decided to come back to Japan, and we'll find out why. Kaz is married, and he has a son, Tomo Shimada. And guess what? He's going to the same country where Kaz went to, that is Canada, for his education. Hi, Kaz. Welcome to the show. It's great to have you. It's been 20 years, right? And I'm so excited to speak with you after so many years.
Hi, Sanjay. Thanks for inviting me to your show.
Did you watch my show? Did you like it?
Yeah, I watched one episode and I really like it.
People are very excited to know about what's happening in Japan. So a lot of people are going to watch this show, and let's explore Japan.
Yeah, let's get on with it.
So let's start with you. So how was it growing up in Japan, and your education in Japan? How was it? And why did you decide to go and study abroad? And then finally you came back. So how was that journey all about, if you can share with us?
Yeah, thanks, Sanjay. So I was born and brought up in Japan. I was born in a place called Kawasaki, that's next to Tokyo. And then growing up, I watched a lot of Hollywood movies and then American songs. That led me to what I do today as the COO of Warner Music. But then growing up, I became interested in things outside Japan. I wanted to know more about what's happening outside Japan. And then when I was 16, I decided to go to Canada because there was an opportunity to spend 2 years in Canada, do an international baccalaureate program. So I applied for the school and then luckily I got accepted. So I spent 2 years in Canada. After that, I also wanted to continue my studies abroad. So decided to apply to London School of Economics. And again, luckily got accepted. And then so I got my first degree there. After finishing my university, I decided to go back to Japan because I wanted to see what it was like to work in Japan in a Japanese company, and but also continue to stay connected with the global elements. So that's why I joined a Japanese trading company.
That was your first job, like Japanese company. That was your
My
first job.
first job, yeah. I never really regretted that I went back because I learned a lot from working in a Japanese company in a global environment. But then after about 4 years, I decided to also, see what it was like to work in a startup environment. So I joined one of the startup company that specialized in a film
Film
distribution.
distribution. Charles, which year was that you started the startup?
That's the year 2000.
Year 2000. So yeah, the startup environment in Japan is not new. It's like it was there long back.
Yeah, it was there, and SoftBank was there in the early days. Rakuten also launched in the late 90s. The startup environment was really starting in Japan back then.
Back then. Okay.
Yeah, and then I joined GE in
That's where we met.
2002.
That's where we met.
Yeah, that's how we met. This one I wanted to really work for a global environment,
Sure.
a global company.
Sure.
And again, I learned a lot how GE operated. I had a great time with you, Sanjay,
Thank you.
and then all the other team members. So then, fast forward, I decided to specialize in the media entertainment sector, and then joined Viacom Japan in year 2006. Then moved into a music business in the 2010 by joining Universal, and then now I work for Warner
Warner
Music
Music.
Japan.
Excellent. So I have two questions out of your journey. Two things. Number one is that when you compare education, like Japan education system versus abroad you studied, what is the difference, pros and cons? And also when you have worked in global companies and you worked in Japanese company also. And so what are the, some of the comparisons, if you can share those two. So education and working in global versus Japanese companies.
Yeah, on educational system. The one thing that's really great about the Japanese educational system, the educational standard is very, very high, especially mathematics and science. So by any standard, the level is very, very high. And so when I went to Canada, the math for the same level, the grade 11 was much easier than what I did in Japan. That was a great advantage that I had, in math. Then, science in general was also level was very high. And then one thing that's also great, I would point out about the Western education system is that the focus on exchanging ideas,
Got it.
expressing yourself
That's true. Yeah.
and debating. That's a little bit of something that's lacking in the Japanese educational system. So I had a combination of both the greatness of the Japanese educational standard and then added by element of debate and discussion and exchanging views and expressing yourself. And that's how I formed myself in my early days. And I'm really happy that I went through both the Japanese and then Western educational system myself.
Got
So
it.
that's the only educational part.
Thank you.
Next one is on working in both the Japanese company and global company. And again, there's pros and cons on both sides. On the pros of the working in the Japanese company is that they focus on developing talent and in early days, and spend a lot of time for training and education. I was given opportunity to work in Mexico as a trainee and with my first job, and I learned quite a bit in Mexico. The con part was the structure of the company and the way the organization works is a little bit hierarchical.
Hierarchical. Yeah.
Yeah,
We get
hierarchical.
to hear that. We get to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. So the many
Many
layers within the
layers. Correct.
organizations. So the decision making tends to become longer.
Does it still exist or it is changing, you think?
It is changing, but it still
It
exists.
still exists. Okay, fair point. Got it.
Yeah. Whereas in the West, I think the decision making process is faster.
Faster.
And then there's a less hierarchical, and then more autonomy in the local operation.
Local
let's say.
operation. Got it.
Yeah. So I think I would say that's the difference.
Another
between
thing,
the two.
Kaz, I get to hear that the stability, the job stability, is much higher in a Japanese company versus global company.
Yeah. That's true. So the job security in a Japanese company is actually pretty good.
Pretty good. Okay.
But at the same time, it is considered one of the elements that prevents companies to adapt to new environment, because more people actually stay longer in the same company. So there is a higher level of loyalty for the
Loyal
company.
for company.
But that also creates a little bit of stagnation. So, and again, it's a pros and cons.
Pros and cons.
We'll go both good sides and bad
And then
sides.
somewhere will touch base upon that, because if you're secured and if the risk appetite goes down, and somewhere the startup question which we will ask later on, maybe it kind of contributes because you already have a cushy job and you're already doing well. Why do you take a startup risk? But we'll touch that later. Now, coming back to this one. So thank you for that. Let's talk about music industry. So how do you find talent in Japan, and what's the revenue model?
When it comes to the music business, there are multiple ways to find talent. As the music label, our job is to discover talent, make good music, and then bring them to customers. That's what we do. Sometimes, raw talent is on the street. Then one can find somebody who is playing on the street. And sometimes it's in the digital world, be it YouTube or TikTok, and somebody puts up the video and then that gets discovered. So nowadays with the internet, there are a lot of ways to find talent. But our job is to really have the antenna and then a sense to really find great talent and then sign them, then create music together, and then again bring them to the customer so that they can enjoy
So I
the
have one
music.
question here. So one question I have is that talent, like, do you find talent, like, do you talk to them one on one or you talk to them through an agent most of the time?
We talk to them directly, and sometimes we talk to the managers. So it's usually a team of 3 or 4 stakeholders, like talent artists themselves, and then the managers, and then the lawyers on the business side.
Sure.
Sometimes they all belong to the one company, or they work on an individual basis. So there's a variation, and but we work with multiple stakeholders.
Got it. Sorry, I stopped you. So you were saying something. My bad.
Yeah, so one thing that is never going to change is the demand for great music. Regardless of technology and the format, that is going to change anyway over time. And but one thing that is never going to change is the love for music. And we
Absolutely.
all love
We
music,
all love
don't
music.
we? So that is never
I
going to
also love
change.
music.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
so now coming to one quick one, people perceive that in Japan, and maybe people don't know, at least I don't know, is that we think, is it more international music or it's more local Japanese music people prefer to listen to?
Well, in Japan, it's more about local music.
Got it.
I know I would say about 90% of the music
90%.
consumed in
Amazing.
Japan is J-pop, and then about 10% international. But I think these days there's more focus on the local music, not just Japan, but everywhere. In Latin America, in Southeast Asia, there is a local talent that is really emerging, and so compared to the past, I think nowadays there's a much focus on the developing the local talent in each
In
market.
each market. Got it. Thank you. Like quickly touching on the revenue model, like is it like you get paid through this Apples of the world, Spotify of the world, total revenue minus the cost of production, and then you get a piece of royalty to the artist? Is that how it works pretty much?
Yeah, so let's just take a streaming business for
Okay.
example. So you mentioned Apple, Spotify, YouTube. These we call them digital service
Okay.
providers, DSPs, and
DSPs. Okay.
DSPs, receive the revenue from the customers, and then of that, certain percentage is paid to the label.
Got it.
Yeah, then that's the revenue for us as a label,
Hmm.
and then we pay back the artist as a royalty.
Got it.
So that's how the money flows. And then for the CDs, and we manufacture as a music label the CD product. Then of the revenue that we get, and again we pay back the royalty to the artist. So that's the sort of major components of
For
the
the
revenue
revenue.
model.
So DSP, I understand, digital service provider. CD, does it still exist, Kaz?
Yeah, it still exists in Japan. So about more than half, I would say 65% of the market is still CD, the physical
65%
product.
of the market.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't believe it. Amazing.
Yeah, but it's the balance is shifting towards digital.
Well,
So I think the digital business is growing fast
yeah.
in Japan. Yeah, and streaming is leading the growth.
I also heard that because of this development in technology, the streaming business, it became a lot more easier to control the flow of revenue versus there was a trend of downloads, which kind of destroyed the music company because it was very hard to control the revenue. How far is that true?
Yeah, there is illegal piracy or like a free file sharing service, and that kind of destroyed the economic model of the download business in the early 2000s. And but then this streaming model makes it more legitimate, and I think a stable revenue model for the music labels. And then I think everyone worked hard to really establish new streaming business model for the entire
So
music
things
industry.
looks a lot more legit. Things looks a lot more stable. And so wish you good luck in the music industry and the role you are doing right now. Now, shifting gear a little bit, Japanese economy. Can you share to our viewers at a high level? We know it's a great country, fourth largest economy, and a bit of past, a bit of what went, and then the future. How do you look at it?
Yeah, so I would say that the quick history of the Japanese economy is that after 1945, the end of the Second World War, the economy grew really quickly. And then up to the 80s, so that it continued to grow.
Yep,
And then we became the second largest economy in the
that's
world,
true.
only after the United States. And then there's a period of stagnation, and I would say the last 20 to 30 years. And then that is that the growth has slowed down. And then the dynamism of the economy has a little bit, came to the halt. So there are multiple reasons for that. One of the reasons is this like willingness to adapt to new technology and a willingness to invest more aggressively in the new area.
Sure.
So compared to the West, there are a lot of startups and then they're doing new great things and investing in a new area. I think Japan was a little bit behind in that startup environment. But I think in the last 10 years, we see a lot of new companies that are emerging, investing in the new
Sure.
technology with some cheap money because we have a very low interest rate. And so borrowing money is not a problem as long as you have a great idea. And so more than 10 unicorns that exist today. And then so that the economy has become more vibrant and the Nikkei, the stock price has, gone up significantly in the last 5 years. So there's a renewed focus on growth. And then I think the politicians and the government have really supported that, investing in the new economy and creating a new segment that is going to lead to the growth for the next
No,
generation.
thank you so much. So I think so things looks better in the next 10 to 20 years for Japan. Like there was a period of stagnancy, but I think there's a renewed focus, as you rightly said. When you talk about startup, right? Let's go a little bit deeper on startup of Japan. Now we heard about SoftBank, right? And I also learned that there are roughly 13 unicorns in Japan today, compared to 200 plus in US and 100 plus in China and India. So there is definitely a kind of a gap. What are the two or three reasons you see that there are not too many startup buzz in Japan? Is it because the population is small? You guys don't have too many problems like China and India has real problem with a large population, which gives them a scale to do something and make money out of it? Is it because like, Japanese government took care of their people so well that the risk appetite, we talked about the stability of the job. What's going on here?
Yeah, no, I think that there's a social element. I would say that you work for a big company that gives you a better security, more safety, economically. So that is considered a thing, for the university students to really join the big corporation. I think that was the kind of standard. Then also the attitude to risk taking has been a bit conservative compared to the West. So that is one element. The other one is, as you said, that the population is smaller than for example to compared to China and the US. And I think there are more people who are willing to take a risk, and then that really led to larger number of unicorns that were born in the US and then China and then India. But that said, I think that the situation is changing. And also the mindset of the young people is changing for the better and for the positive. And also the society and is allowing people to take the second chance and the third chance. Then people are just willing to take more risks. And then that is also supported by, let's say, the financial institutions that are providing the funds and to really carry on with their ventures. I also would say that the companies like SoftBank and Rakuten and Mercari, these successful startups and now considered major corporations. And I think people have seen the path that they went through, then just learn from them, and then trying to replicate the same model. And that's why there are a lot of people who are starting new companies. Also, the participation of the female workers is also adding dynamics to it. So I think we are having a pretty vibrant startup environment.
So, if I just kind of summarize what you said, sounds very promising. You were saying that, which is a very, very important thing, the society is changing. They are ready to give chances, right, to the youth, which where before they were very judgmental that if they lose a job or if they want to think out of the box, it can be a little bit harsh, but things are changing, which is a big change. Number two, is the cheap money, which is not there in US right now. So money is available, so startup can have access to the money and kind of think through new startups. Then equality, again, a lot of female workers are getting into that. Government is supporting, as you said, right, in terms of so it looks like a lot of promising things that can happen in the future in Japan in the startup ecosystem is what you're saying, Kaz.
That is correct. And of course, in terms of scale, of course, compared to some of the major startups in the US, it's smaller. But I think that in terms of the number of new companies that are emerging, and I think that there is a positive sign.
And one more point I was thinking, and maybe you can touch base upon. If you look at the Fortune 500 companies, 10 to 11% is Japanese company. So you think that Japan can develop solutions which these companies, 10 to 11% Fortune 500 companies, can leverage, right? Like supply chain solution, logistics solution. And that way you can start reaching out to the global audience and not just stick to 125 million. And that way, the way Japan did in engineering, right? It's all global customer. So you think the Japan startup can reach out to the global customer through these existing Fortune 500 companies of Japan and kind of make a mark?
Yeah, absolutely. So the supply chain globalization of the supply chain system, and also the advanced level of internet. I think these things will allow products and services to be applied worldwide rather than just in Japan. And so that is the same condition for all startup, in anywhere. And so it's not just for Japan, but I think Japan is people are just realizing that there is an advantage in Japan. For example, the stability of the society, and then politically it's very stable. Then as a society, it's a safe society. So okay, all these elements are really contributing to creating an environment where people feel comfortable investing in the new venture.
So this is good. Looking very promising. Kaz, one last question on startup. What are the 3 or 4 industry you think the youth should focus on? There is an opportunity out there from a startup perspective.
Yeah. First one is healthcare. We have aging population in Japan. There are many health-related issues that are emerging, and so the solution to support the healthcare, the aging population in Japan, is definitely going to be the area of growth.
Okay.
And then the second one is fintech.
Fintech. Okay.
So like a finance and technology, I think combination of the two is creating a lot of great solutions as we move from the cash-oriented country to a digital currency.
Got it.
That's fintech. And then the third one is what I do today, which is entertainment.
Entertainment.
Yeah, there is a virtual character. There's a VTubers, AI-made songs, and so all these new elements, NFTs, blockchain technology to manage the music rights operations. So that's one segment that can also create a lot of new startups and opportunities for them.
And I also heard gaming. I mean, a lot of gaming companies
Oh,
come out
yeah.
of Japan.
Gaming, anime, and these are two areas that are very,
Very
very
exciting.
we are very strong, very
So
strong.
now,
Yeah.
one last question before kind of we wrap up this session is that, like, based on your career, like you have been part of startups, you have been part of global companies. What are the 3, 4 things you will advise to these budding entrepreneurs? What they should do to get things right?
First of all, I never founded a company myself or started a company myself, so that's just one thing.
No, I agree.
But I think that this is based on my career. I think to develop the expertise in a certain subject matter is very important. And then the second thing is building the team, working with the people that you trust. And I think that really leads to a great result. And then the third thing is perseverance. It's not always a fun thing or positive things that happen to you, but when faced with the challenges, you got to keep up your spirit and then to overcome the challenge. And I think that kind of mindset and positivity is very important. So I'd say those 3 things.
I mean, you said you did not start at a startup, but I will be honest to you. When I spoke to a lot of founders, they say pretty much what you said is that subject matter expertise, which I'm not surprised given it's Japan because they're so good at what they do. Number 2, trusting, the team is so important. The team you should be able to trust. And number 3 is a perseverance. Like you are in the long haul. You can't have it for 1 or 2 years. It has to be more than that. That's fantastic. One question from my side. I travel globally, you travel globally, we all travel globally, but we don't see too many Japanese sitting next to us or working with us. Why is that?
That's one thing I also noticed too. I wish more Japanese people would be traveling around the world, like we did, back in 70s and 80s. And I think the one thing is Japan is such a great country is that we are too comfortable staying in Japan. The food is great. We have such a safe society, and which just makes them too comfortable. So I really want people to get out of the comfort zone and then go out and find more outside Japan. And but I think that comfort level is too high. Is the
Is the
reason.
reason. No, thank you, Kaz. I mean, I'll tell you my experience quickly on Japan. I've been to Japan a few times. I've worked with you. I worked with Jun Kamakami, our boss, and then we had a great team, Nelly and Steve Leung and everybody. It was like a family that time, and got a chance to interact with so many people from so many countries. Japan was awesome. You guys were extremely nice. We had a great time talking to all of you. We worked, and we worked hard and we party hard at the same time. And when I was visiting Japan with my wife, I think the people in general, like they were so helpful. I felt the same amount of comfort, right? That what you're saying. So I think it was wonderful to be in Japan that point of time. Now I want to say thank you, Kaz, for your time. It was such a great pleasure to catch up with you after 20 years. You look as young as you were 20 years ago. And
Thank you. It was a
yeah,
pleasure talking
and
to you.
so ladies and gentlemen, this is Kaz for you. He's smart, he's fun, and he's witty as he was before. So thank you, Tokyo. We love you. Thank you, Japan. We love you. So we'll see you again in the next episode of Startup Saga. Thanks again.
Thank you. See you soon.